if you are already a core CHI interpreter, in other words, interpreter whose language is different than Spanish, Arabic, or Mandarin, and we're talking anywhere from French to Kinyarwanda, Russian, Ukrainian, Turkish, Farsi, any of those languages. All core CHI certificates could now take the practical exam or oral performance exam, interpreting skills exam called E2E, and earn a higher level or higher tier of certification called CoreCHI performance certification. You can take that exam at any time during the testing windows, but what I mean is if you have a valid CoreCHI certification, you can take that exam at any time. Now, however, because last November we changed our eligibility requirements that relate to your language proficiency in the language other than English, if you are currently certified as a core CHI, you may have met old requirements. So before we issue you the core CHI performance certification, we verify that you actually meet the current requirements, because the certification is issued today, right, based on today's requirements, and the requirements have changed. So we encourage everyone, and we sent already to every core CHI emails starting in January of this year, and we made announcement in November of last year about that language proficiency requirements. Yet we still get quite a few questions, which I'll try to clarify right now. So to find the information about our language proficiency requirement that new candidates need to meet right now, and the previously certified core CHI interpreters need to meet. English requirement has not changed, so you don't need to worry about it. But when it comes to the language other than English, we recognize that even though our goal is to certify every interpreter of every language, languages are different. And they're different basically because of how they are spoken and how they are functioning in societies in those countries where they're considered native, right? I'll give you an example. If we take, for example, Swahili, right? It is spoken in many African countries. And in many African countries, let's say Kenya, right? Swahili is the language of instruction at high school, at college, etc. And so then if you are from Kenya and you speak Swahili, if you have a college degree from Kenya, then you prove your language proficiency. However, if you're from an African country where Swahili is spoken, but it's not the language of instruction, then you really cannot prove your language proficiency through the college degree. And so when we were looking at, and then there are some languages that may not have even a written form, right? We have languages of minorities in different countries. If we take the country of Myanmar, the official language is Burmese. All training, all publications about medicine, health is done in Burmese. However, there are significant minorities like Mon, Karen, Rohingya, who speak those languages and who are refugees from that country. And so they cannot prove their language proficiency through the traditional means of saying like, oh, I went to school there. So because in school, nobody spoke Karen. For that reason, CCHI created different tiers of languages. And so we have 3 tiers. So the first tier is the languages where you can get a college degree education in your country in that language, and there are materials published in that language about healthcare, and there is a language proficiency test in the US that you can take and prove your language proficiency. In other words, there are 3 paths that you can, I mean, more than 3 as you can clearly see, but you can summarize them to 3 paths. You can get certified in that language. Let's take Cantonese, Korean, Russian. You can get certified through the state courts. You can get your certification from some other entities, so you can have that. You can have the language proficiency test from multiple testing vendors, and you could complete a college degree of bachelor's, master's, PhD in that language. And for that, we have specific requirements. You need to provide proof of one document proving the following. Either you have a college degree, high school is not accepted because high school, the commission has made a decision that we cannot accept high school level education because we really, at our exams, do not test your knowledge of those languages. So college is when us human beings already have our language and cognitive skills set. So that's why college level is what we accept. Um, it could be master's degree, special majoring in that language from different other countries. For example, in Europe, there are many universities that teach more languages at the master's level than the United States does. So in other words, there are different kinds of post high school education proof. And then the second proof, the main proof for if you didn't go to college, because you don't have to, we don't require college degree to take our exam. Uh, you can take a language proficiency test. So if we look at the tiers, the first tier, there are currently 83 languages listed in that tier, right? And we review them continuously. And if anyone from the public would like to add or retract the language from this list, we're happy to do it. But for example, if your language is on this list, then one of the proofs is your language proficiency test. If, however, you your language is not the language of instruction. You cannot get a college degree in that language. But there is a language proficiency test. That's what becomes a tier 2 language. And the tier 2 language, the requirements are slightly different because we allow you to we don't force you to get just one document, that language proficiency test, but you can get additional documents, and I'll talk about them in a minute. But so on this language, there are about 43 languages listed, as you see, as of today, right? And the languages get slightly less common, right? You have some that you may easily know, like Hmong, which have refugees from uh, both Laos and a couple nearby surrounding areas since the 80s, but then the Kurdish, there's Kinyarwanda. So these languages have language proficiency tests available in the United States. And then the third tier is all the other languages. In other words, another, whatever, 6,000 languages, right, who don't have language proficiency tests. So the requirements for tier 2 and tier 1 and tier 3 consist of producing two documents. One of them could be your refugee resettlement document if you're a refugee, because the United States refugee process includes interviewing you in the refugee camp and assessing your language skills at that time. It's not perfect, but it's still a testimony that somebody speaks that particular language. And then it could be an attestation from your employer or an attestation from a community organization. However, we do have specific requirements for that, and they need to meet those requirements. From the employer, we even have a template letter where you can, download and take it to your employer. We need to make sure that you worked for the right employer at least for 1 year. And for the community organization, we need to have several other, parameters, but the important one, again, they need to describe how they know that you speak the language. Why do we go to these lengths for this tier 2 and 3 languages? Because for those languages, there are very many heritage speakers. In other words, kids who got to the United States when they were 6 years of age, and at home they speak that language. But as you all know, speaking the language at the grandma's level, talking to your grandmas, is not enough to be a medical interpreter with all the liabilities that come with about accuracy and completeness of your interpretation. So, and knowing the medical terminology in those languages. So for that reason, we need to know how somebody somebody else who speaks that language can tell us that you can actually speak it, because there are no exams in the United States. That's our solution to this conundrum of how do we prove that you speak Kiche, and we need to have other testimonies to verify that you do that. So there are a couple of countries and languages that actually have mixed history, and it's a little harder to get of tier one languages to get proof of language proficiency. I can give you an example of Cantonese. Uh, Cantonese is not taught in the United States anywhere formally at the college level. It is not taught in China or in Taiwan at the college level because but it was taught in Hong Kong at some till very recently. So if you have a college degree from Hong Kong until very recently, then that would be accepted as your proof of speaking Cantonese. However, if you didn't go to college, which again, you don't have to be certified as an interpreter by CCHI, then sadly, your only option is taking that language proficiency exam. And we have testing vendors that we accept for our language proficiency results from. The two that are available for all languages that will list tier one and tier two are LTI, which bases their testing on actful scales, and Alta, that's a company here in the United States that mostly offers testing either to employers of interpreters or in conjunction with their training. For the CHI languages, Spanish, Arabic, and Mandarin, we have more companies listed because they have undergone our internal review. I also want to let you know that we are currently in the process of reviewing even more tests from companies. So by the end of summer, this list will grow. I don't think this list will grow that much for all other credentials, but our intent is formalize the process of review and actually have an assessment and a register of tests that we accept. That's what I wanted to explain to those of you who are converting from the CoreCHI credential to the CoreCHI performance credential. Well, you can take the exam today, for example, since we're having a testing window right now. If you don't meet these language proficiency requirements, we will not issue the certificate until you meet these requirements and provide us documentation that you actually speak Farsi, Dari, Korean, etc.